Welcome to Mini Adventures. Thank you all so much for being supporters on Buy Me a Coffee. I really appreciate your support in supporting the podcast and for listening. I hope you enjoy the Mini Adventures. Hey cachers, welcome to Mini Adventures. I hope you enjoy this. For the first mini adventure, I'm going to talk to you about pocket or moving caches. This is a part of geocaching history that I found to be really interesting. So what this is it was introduced back at the beginning of the game in 2001, and the idea was the geocachers would move around a traveling cache from location to location, and then you would ask the cache owner to update the coordinates each time it moved. Really interesting idea, kind of like a trackable, but with the actual geocache. It had some issues. Maintenance was an issue because the cache owner couldn't control where their caches were being moved or verify if they were missing or necessarily even be able to get to them to perform maintenance. So that was a problem. Restricted locations was an issue. Community volunteer reviewers could not review the new placement every time it got moved, so they couldn't verify if it was in an illegal or restricted location. Many of the traveling pocket caches actually stayed with one geocacher who would take them from like event to event, and then they were just log like trackables. And this made sure the cache wouldn't go missing, but it defied the very idea of what the traveling cache was supposed to be. When Geocache HQ made updates to their website and apps, it would take a lot of time and effort to maintain exceptions for the website. So most of the traveling caches required exceptions to not trigger souvenirs every time the cache was moved area to area. I've seen on Facebook people mention, hey, I have this souvenir that popped up and I've never been to this place. And it's that sort of thing seems to be what's happening. They also had issues with it allowing to be logged multiple times and update the coordinates every time. So there's a lot of support issues for the HQ side. And some of the pocket caches were actually acting as a locationless cache type, that has now been retired for 10 years or so. The traveling cache, the pocket cache, moving cache, whatever you prefer to call it, it started to phase out about 2017. There were fewer than 100 left. So because of all the issues that these had and the dwindling numbers, HQ decided to archive them all. Now, what they did is they wanted to still recognize that this was a part of geocaching history and, still kind of keep it alive. So they gave the option to have these pocket traveling caches turned into trackables. And then the trackable actually had a special icon to indicate that it had been a moving pocket cache at one point. All traveling caches that were active at the time of retirement were eligible to receive one of these tracking codes. It's my understanding it was left up to the cache owner to go through the process and get that set up. So just some neat little history right there. I found some list of some pocket caches I'll include in the post. I'll include the link in the post. I got my information from geocaching.com website. It's a neat bit of history. I hope you enjoyed hearing about it. Hopefully, maybe one day I will be able to get one of the owners of these pocket moving caches on to talk about them. I reached out to a couple of them, but they may or may not be active or just may or may not be interested in being on a podcast. I'm not sure which, but I haven't heard back from them. But maybe one day we'll be be able to have a long form episode on this. But for now, that concludes our mini adventure. I hope you enjoyed it. Thanks, guys.